side. So I'm very happy to invite our first speaker, Estefania Carpio, to explain the tools developed in the BioRadar project.
Hi, Marcela. Thank you so much for that nice introduction. Welcome everyone who has taken the time to join us today. I wish I could see some faces, but unfortunately, I think you're all a bit shy today, but it's fine. I'm going to share my screen now. I hope it's working. Can everybody see it in the full? Okay, perfect. So yeah, Marcelo already mentioned, my name is Estefania Carpio. I come representing the Hamburg University of Applied Sciences. And today I'm going to be presenting a little bit the main results and outcomes of the BioRadar project. Okay, so what is up for our session today? First of all, I'm going to do a brief introduction about the project itself, the replication facility, which is the main platform or hub where we have collected all the results and inputs, the implementation scorecard, which is a tool that we have developed ourselves, and the massive open online course that we have as well as part of the project for skills development. So as we all know, there has been a big and rapid transition in Europe into this bio-based economy, right? Unfortunately, the switch from fossil-based to bio-based does not warranty sustainable performance. And this is exactly where BioRadar comes into place. We wanted to create this bio-based transition indicator framework in order to be able to have the indicators and the appropriate methods and the framework itself to assess bio-based companies, bio-based products, and bio-based systems in general, as opposed to utilizing the more standardized fossil-based indicators that are not really fitting to the kind of products that we have in the market more and more nowadays in Europe. So as a project itself, we have 2.8 million euros as budget. We started our activities in July 2023, and we're going to close the project now in June 2026. So we're very close to the end of the project, which is why I have many things to share with you today. Part of the consortium, we have 7 different organizations from around Europe, and our main goal, as I mentioned, was to support policymakers, companies, and investors with adequate tools in order for them to assess their sustainability performance, social, environmental, and economic performance, also addressing material circularity gaps, and in general, evaluating all these impacts, allowing them to do some self-assessment and benchmarking. The way we do it is by developing this BTI framework, which is composed by indicators, methods, and the tools that make this framework operational for the stakeholders to actually implement it in action. The project is focusing on 3 different use cases, one of those bio-based textiles, the other one bio-based fertilizers, and the last one bio-based packaging. So as part of the main outcomes and results that we created through this process was, first of all, the framework itself, as I mentioned. Then this framework is partially made operational through the assessment platform. In this assessment platform, you can, the different stakeholders can access and evaluate and compare themselves, do some benchmarking in terms of their products with information related to the LCA, social LCA, eco cost, and so on. So this is a very interesting tool, quantitative tool. Then we also have the regulatory tracker tool. With this one, you can be up to date in the very dynamic landscape of regulations in terms, especially nowadays, in terms of bio-based economy. So with this tool, it will be easy for the stakeholders to check compliance, what is applicable to them, and so on. We also developed a standardization toolkit. In this one, similar to the regulatory tracker tool, with this one you can access the standards that are existing and that have been published within 12 different thematics, and having access to those that are open for the public. Also, partly made operational, making operational the BTI framework is the implementation scorecard. This is a qualitative tool that we have developed. I will be explaining it in detail what this is about. And then we have the replication facility that hosts everything together along with the massive open online course as well. So the main goal of the replication facility was to harmonize and support the exploitation of all the results that we have produced with the project. It also works as an information transfer platform with the relevant stakeholders that we are targeting with the project. And it is aimed that it works as a long-lasting knowledge platform as well, as it will be hosting the MOOC for at least after 5 years of project completion. So in order to do this session a little bit more interactive as well, I would like to ask all the speakers, all the audience, everybody who is here today to please join us. It's going to be easier for you to also follow along through the presentation that I'm doing in the next slides. And then you can see the replication facility yourself and probably understand a little bit better and see what is useful and interesting for you. You can explore it, of course, a bit further after we are done with the session. But for now, please join me using this QR code or accessing the Digital Learning for Sustainable Development.org, which is dl4sd.org, and then searching for BioRadar course. Once you access the website, sorry, maybe I should give you a little bit more time to scan the code. Good. So once you access the website, you have the QR code again on the next slides. You will have this first page because it's important for you to create an account. Fortunately, this account works not only for the BioRadar results and the platform that we have produced for the project, but you also get access to additional information and skills development courses where you can learn and acquire different skills. So the first step would be then to create this new account. What asks afterwards, which is mandatory, is age and a country. So maybe you can input that information quickly now. And then when we move to the next one, then it's when it asks you for a little bit more information. I promise this is not, doesn't take so long. So you just need to choose a username, a password, of course, connected with your email address. Include again your email address for verification, include your name. And the other additional mandatory field on the right side would be the gender. You can also leave it as prefer not to tell. That's the automatic response there. And then by ticking off the boxes, you will have already the created account and you can access our replication facility. If anybody has questions or needs a little bit more time, please let me know. Otherwise, I will move on with the presentation. So once you have your account created, you will be able to see the entire replication facility that we developed. So in the first part, we have a brief introduction of the facility itself. Then we dedicate some space also to merge and harmonize the digital tools that we created with the project. Then we have a dedicated section for the massive open online course and also some additional resources, which I will be going to explain. I will explain each of the sections in detail in the following slides. So first of all, in the introduction, we have here a brief, as the title says, a brief introduction to the project. What can be expected from this replication facility? How can you use it? Who we are targeting with this facility? And also, you will have access to the very nice video that our communication partners created, summarizing very nicely what we are doing with the project. That was our first project video. So maybe later on, when you have a little time, you can have a look. And then we go to the section of our tools. I'm going to be referring only to the implementation scorecard because that is the one that we developed ourselves. The other ones I gave you a quick overview of what they do, and you can explore them further on the replication facility directly. So our main motivation to create this implementation scorecard and to target it for small and medium enterprises is basically stemming on the importance both in numbers as employment powerhouse and the economic contribution that SMEs represent overall Europe. However, we identified that they still face obstacles when it comes to assessing their sustainability performance and the performance of their operations, mainly due to lack of resources, expertise, or also the complexity of the existing frameworks that are not tailored for small and medium enterprises. So this was the motivation for us to design a tool that would help bridge this gap in a simple, structured, and valuable way that SMEs can understand and actually take action on. So the concept for this tool is basically to make it an innovative and qualitative tool targeting SMEs, as I said, and translating, that is able to translate the broad language and the broad framework of the SDGs into concrete sector-specific and tailored for SMEs questions and KPIs. The idea of the tool is to help the companies to identify the main gaps when it comes to contributions to the different sustainable development goals, considering four main dimensions, which are environmental, social, economic, and circularity. The way we did this was, first of all, we identified the most relevant KPIs utilizing already established frameworks like the GRI, ISO, and so on. And based on these key performance indicators, we created these sector-specific questionnaires. The indicators, the questionnaires, as well as the final tool have been tested and validated both in one-on-one sessions with the different bio-based companies representing the three different sectors that the project is targeting, and receiving their feedback and doing a co-creation process with them together. So after creating these sector-specific questionnaires, we designed the scoring system, how we would present these results, aggregating these results on the SDG level and on the dimension level, and then finally providing a visual score and recommendations for the companies. So this is also very interesting. You can access the tool directly here using the QR code. This is a web-based app that we have created. So as you can see, this would be the first screen that you can access to, and then you can choose which kind of sector you are aiming for. Each of the sectors, as I said, has a tailored questionnaire with the relevant KPIs for each of the sectors. And this is more or less how the questionnaire is looking. It takes quite some time, I would say some 30-40 minutes to complete, because it consists of 4 questions for each of the SDGs. So in total, it's 68 questions, but of course, we cannot go through all of them right now, but probably during some time, you can have a look, test it out while you go through the tool. You can also see some words marked in green. These we included here some basic concepts as well for you to know exactly what we are referring to, if there is some kind of ambiguity or needs of term definitions. And then once you complete this self-assessment, you would get this as a final result, which is a compilation of the 4 dimensions and all of the SDGs. Here for the scoring, we have included it first at number 0 as not applicable, then scores number 1 and 2 reflecting awareness, that the company is aware of what the issues are and maybe are starting to plan some future steps. Scores number 3 and 4 represent the planning phase of the company already having clear targets and an action plan. And number 5 represents leading practices with the action plan already operational and achieving the targets that they have set. Besides this overall diagram that we saw before, we are also segregating the results per the different dimensions so that you can see according to each of the dimensions where you are performing in each of the different SDGs. Then you get also a summary, a quantitative summary here below for each of the dimensions and each of the SDGs. Here we are categorizing from the best performing one to the lowest performing one. So it's easy also for the companies to directly assess in which ones they need to put a little bit more attention. As part of the feedback that we received, was the simplicity of use and innovation of the tool, as this is something that, at least with the companies that we tested and validated the tool, they have not seen before. So yeah, that was it about the implementation scorecard. And then let us go to the massive open online course that we have included as well in the results of our project, and we created together with our consortium. So the way we structured this MOOC was according to a user or learner journey. So depending on the type of stakeholder that you are, your interests and needs, you can navigate the content depending on what you would like to investigate or to learn about. So we have 4 different paths. Path number 1 is dedicated to the general public and consumers. Path number 2 is dedicated to public organizations and public policymakers. Path number 3 belongs to the industry and commerce. And path number 4 is targeting the researchers. Related to the main content that we included in the massive open online course, first we have a course welcome and an overview where you can see what are the learning objectives of each module and what kind of information you will find. Then we're also going a bit into details, into definitions, the benefits and the challenges of the bio-based systems and the development itself of the BTI framework. And then we go to a deeper introduction also into the bio-based transition framework, detailing a bit more the methodologies, the indicators, metrics that we used for assessment of sustainability and circularity. Then we have the additional modules. The most important one and the heaviest one is the technical perspective. Here we are including, for example, the environmental aspects, everything related to environmental impact assessment, life cycle assessment, LCC, carbon removal potential, indirect land use changes as well. Then we go a bit deeper into the circularity aspects, also the indicators that are existing, the indicators that we developed with the project for specifically bio-based products, the methodologies that we used, also the importance of the end of life, as I mentioned in the beginning, the fact that a product is bio-based unfortunately does not guarantee that it is sustainable, and end of life issues is one of the main aspects also to consider for the entire value chain and circularity of these products as well. And then we have details also on the digital monitoring tools, how we build them, what they are doing in the background, how you can use them, and a clear demos as well for this part. Then we have an additional section on the business perspective of the bio-based systems. Here we are aiming for, we're covering topics such as cost benefits, different business models that have proved successful in the bio-based systems, also best practices and strategies that we have identified while developing the project, and also an economic and market analysis, analyzing potential and opportunities for these new business models that we are proposing as well as part of our framework. Finally, we also have, well, not finally really, but we also have a legal perspective. In this part, we include the standardization and the regulatory landscape that I mentioned before, also as part of the tools that we developed with the project. And then finally now we have an interactive session which includes a fictional case where the learners can implement what they actually learned during the massive open online course. It's a very interactive content. Here you can see, I'm not going to go into each of the modules that we have here, but as you can see, we have most of the concentrated content in the industry and commerce and the researchers and students, given that we have a lot of technical information as well, but also the relevant information for public organizations and policymakers, and info for the general public and consumers in an easy to understand way, so that it's not going too deep into the technical details, but it's easy for decision makers, for the consumers in the end, to make their decisions as well. So there's very interesting information there. Among this content, we have reading material, we have presentations, we have videos, we have interactive sessions as well. And we included for each of the modules additional resources that the different users can access to in case they are interested in going a bit deeper into the content of the specific topic. For the last part of the other resources included in the replication facility, first we have the About section. In this section, we are providing you mostly with access to our social media channels, also to our website. And as you can see below, we also included a glossary of important terms in the bioeconomy, in case there is something additional that was not clarified during the MOOC, for example, and that would be interesting for you to learn. You can always go to this glossary to find the definitions. And we are including as well a file repository that is hosting the public deliverables of the project, as well as the publications, the scientific publications that we have produced. Last but not least, the cooperation section. Here we decided to go a different way. Normally this is done through a forum, in a forum way or concept. But actually we have also today here Nadia, and we were discussing how to embed it or include it and connect it directly with the platform that they are developing as well, which is targeting skill development as well, if I'm not mistaken. So you will have access to a forum there as well. But in our cooperation section, you will mainly have a list of a curated list of key contacts in the bio-based sector. They are mapped by country, origin, and type of organization. And this allows you to quickly identify and have access to the main interesting contacts and networks that are working in the bio-based sector. So if any of what I presented and I showed today caught your interest, please, once more, feel free to register and join us in our replication facility. Also access all the materials that we have on our MOOC. And last chance is also to join us on social media and see what happens with after the project ends. That was it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Estefania. It's very interesting. I have several questions, and I think I'm going to kickstart it while waiting for other participants to put their questions in the chat. So yeah, my first question is more of a curiosity, because you have such different value chains as textiles, fertilizers, and packaging. So I was wondering if this was a challenge, or did you find enough connections while developing the tools? And yeah, how was this process?
Yeah, well, I think this is not the only project that has issues with that, engaging companies. I think we all have experience with that. Unfortunately, it was challenging. However, we were able to leverage on the existing networks that we have both at the university and the consortium direct networks. So we were able to ensure at least the number of companies that we needed to test. In our case, for example, the implementation scorecard and the MOOC as well. So yeah, we could test it and validate it, but it was definitely challenging to get the companies on board. I think mostly since they are not they don't receive any kind of incentives to join these projects, and they would do it out of their own resources, both human and economic, and time. It takes a little bit more a commitment from the companies to engage. But as I said, yeah, we were lucky and we were able to manage this validation with them.
Okay, yeah, that's very important. Otherwise, you create tools that are not that useful or tailored to them, and then it makes no sense. Yep, okay,
Exactly.
nice to hear
Exactly.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one more maybe curiosity about the content of the regulatory tracker. Did you focus only on European legislation, or do you have any aspect of regional legislation as well?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it has an overview of the global policies that are out
Ah,
there.
okay.
So yeah, it's not only for Europe, but also international and cross-regional and so on. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, even broader than I was expecting. Okay, nice. I see there's a question in the chat, so I'll take that and then I come back to the other ones I have. So Evie is asking where were the companies open to the concept of a MOOC, or is this still more for education research?
Um, when we presented when we have these one-on-one sessions with the companies, of course we were also introducing the MOOC that we were developing. They showed some interest, especially in learning about the methods and what is behind the conception of these tools, so that they can somehow learn how it fits to their processes and specific contexts. But I would say it was not the main interest of the companies as well. I think probably if they are training some new people that needs to, I don't know, shifting careers or something, probably this would be interesting content for them. But they were mostly interested in the actual tools that we were providing them.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Okay, maybe regarding the implementation scorecard, you say the focus was on SMEs, and I understand, but I was wondering if you think this would also be interesting for larger companies that are considering a shift, so adopting a different or new process. Do you think it would also make sense to them, or not really, because their way of work is completely different?
Yes, I think there are already quite some established frameworks for larger companies
Okay.
to comply with and to use for self-assessment. So I think it would not be so interesting for them since it's quite already fixed. But for the SMEs, what I see a lot of potential is also upscaling in terms of sectors. So the methodology that we use allows us to apply it in a pretty easy and straightforward way to a different sector, and this can be that could enrich the possibilities of the exploitation of the tool as well.
Okay, that was exactly my second question on the tool. Yeah, how much is it really fixed on the textile fertilizers and packaging, and how much can it be applied to other sectors? So it is applicable.
Yes.
It's easy to use to other sectors. Okay.
Exactly. Yes, we published the methodology in one conference paper, but the more serious publication is coming soon as well. So this is something that you can use as reference also for replication.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Then maybe future projects also developing similar tools don't have to start from scratch. Just take yours and apply to the sector of
Exactly.
relevance.
That would be the idea. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So yeah, if anybody is interested in it's from another sector, just keep your eye on BioRadar to see this publication.
Yes.
Okay, and then yeah, I have one final question from my side is the project is ending. And you did mention that the MOOC will be online for the next 5 years, but what happens? Are all other tools also available for the next 5 years? Are you already guaranteeing this, or how do you see this continuation?
Yes, definitely. So everything that is included within the replication facility will last until at least 5 years after project completion. However, I cannot ensure for the rest of the tools, but for the implementation scorecard and for the replication facility itself, hosting as well the MOOC, it will be long lasting because this is the platform that we use and that we maintain at the university for all of our projects and all the content that we're producing as well. So in this sense, we can ensure long-term availability of the facility.
Okay, yeah, that's very important. Like I mentioned in the beginning, that sometimes the projects develop something so nice, and then in a couple of years it gets lost. But okay,
It's
good to hear that
forgotten.
it's embedded in in a server that will continue to exist.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. For now, this was it. I don't see any more questions coming in the chat. So I will thank you again, Estefania, and move forward with our program. So now we will move from BioRadar to BioINSouth, and I invite Nadia to give her presentation.
Thank you very much for the invitation to begin with, and thank you for all this interesting information that we get the chance to hear and share. I will now share my screen. So hopefully you are watching all of my screen. Is everything okay? Perfect. So this talk, hosted under Thursday Talks, I decided that this presentation should be more like a talk. So I will be really relaxed and really, talkative about connecting all the things that we heard from Estefania previously with a regional aspect that we are addressing through Project BioINSouth. So the title of my talk is How to Connect Southern European Regions for a More Engaged, Circular and Sustainable Bioeconomy. And this is very deliberate because bioeconomy doesn't have the same implementation force or the same sense in all parts of the world, all parts of Europe and all regions of Europe. So, okay, this is actually very basic, but I consider it useful to set the record straight. Bioeconomy actually is not a very new idea. There are some key ideas underpinning bioeconomy that were first discussed early in the 20th century. So we have to admit now, and this is more evident in the following years, that the economy is not independent, but it is embedded in nature. So every economic activity uses finite resources and increases disorder in the whole system, the society. So infinite growth is impossible on an infinite planet, and here is where bioeconomy comes, which means that we must use renewable and biological resources from land and sea in order to produce food, materials, and energy in the following years. This aspect of bioeconomy has become really pronounced in the last few years because bioeconomy helps sustain the climate in a situation that we already know it by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, by protecting biodiversity. Through bioeconomy also we can ensure our energy supplies, we reduce the dependence on fossil fuels and fossil fuel products. Bioeconomy also is very related to health and innovation because of the new medicines resulting from biotech solutions. Also, it has a very large positive impact in food and agriculture, where we are really in need of sustainable food system and less waste. And also, bioeconomy is a very large opportunity for jobs and growth, new industries, new green jobs, and a new rural development. So in BioINSouth first, I want to show this slide because bioeconomy is actually a technical advancement, but it's a lot more than this. It's also a regional transition which is shaped by local demands like local biomass, local land, water, biodiversity, specificities in the stakeholder ecosystems, in the industries, and bioeconomy has to do also with people. So in the Southern European regions and the Mediterranean region, we have strong bio-based potential, but we also face resource fragility because of the climate pressure, the constraints in the land use, the availability of local biomass. We have also fragmented capacity, mainly because we have different level of policy maturity and stakeholder coordination, issues that are quite known in all over the world, but they are very much pronounced in Southern Europe and the Mediterranean region. And we also need some practical tools in order to inform and push actually decision makers to make more informed decisions, to develop regional strategies, to transform existing regional strategies to more coherent plans. So BioINSouth is a project that has brought together 15 partners from all over Europe, from 9 countries. It has a duration of 36 months. We are currently exiting year 2 of the project. We have a budget of 3 million in order to organize the bioeconomy perception in the Southern European regions and the Mediterranean region. So it's a coordination and support action. And our methodology in BioINSouth is quite straightforward. So first, in order to create and connect also a critical mass of bioeconomy stakeholders, we needed to establish a multi-actor stakeholder approach and create the multi-actor regional groups, the MOOCs, and stakeholder engagement tools like the BioINSouth stakeholder community tool that I will shortly present afterwards, in order for the MOOCs to be reformed into 8 case study regional hubs that will aim on enhancing a regional collaboration in bioeconomy by leveraging also the experience we have from existing initiatives like the BioINSouth hub. BioINSouth is a partner in our consortium. Maybe some of you have heard, it's a Central European macro-regional initiative for bioeconomy, and we are largely connected with them by following a similar methodology to create our hubs in the European South. So in the next step, and in parallel with all the activities, we developed an aggregate methodologies and digital tools in order to perform environmental and sustainability assessments and exploration by incorporating existing data and international best practices. This is actually the BioINSouth toolkit. And then we validate all these methodologies and the toolkit at the regional hub level, which were formed from the MOOCs, in order to perform some policy analysis and organize forums and co-creation activities for the exchange of best practices and the connection of all stakeholders. Our ultimate goal is to draft recommendations for policymakers that are specially tailored for the Southern European regions and the Mediterranean region, and ensure that the replication and sustainability of this approach will be spread throughout all relevant regions. So here it's an overview of the 8 regional hubs of BioINSouth. You can see that we have established one hub in Slovenia, in Cyprus, in Peloponnese in Greece, in Campania, Italy, in Andalusia and Asturias, different hubs in Spain, and the Central region in Portugal, and also Nouvelle-Aquitaine from France. So there is, it is widely accepted that the regional ecosystems suffer from fragmentation. Not only to digital support, but in general, fragmentation in stakeholders. So the regional bioeconomy is a complex system that has to incorporate market opportunities, data, environmental limits that are acceptable, policies, different policies, resources, and many and diverse stakeholders with different level of bioeconomy education. So in BioINSouth, we decided to use the digital tools to make connection and flow of information easier. The role of the digital tools were to engage regional actors, to explore sustainability and circularity in value chains that are related to the Southern European and Mediterranean regions, and also to support better informed regional strategies. So the main digital tools in BioINSouth, they are complementary to each other in order to support our regional bioeconomy transition. So we have the stakeholder community tool, which connects regional actors and not only of bioeconomy, facilitating engagement and exchange. The stakeholder community tool is a support tool for the hub activities, and it helps stakeholders of bioeconomy from wherever they are to find information, opportunities, and also find each other. The BioINSouth toolkit, on the other hand, is a toolkit that aims to support the environmental positioning of the stakeholders and the activities of the stakeholders in bioeconomy in southern regions, provides insights on sustainability and circularity in selected value chains. It brings methods and indicators into one access point. You can access both of these tools through our website. And the ultimate goal is to help the region move from ambition to planning. So we connect actors, we structure the knowledge in order to support better regional decisions. I will start very briefly with the BioINSouth toolkit. So the BioINSouth toolkit, you can access it, as you see, through our website. It's a guided exploration of bioeconomy value chains in a nutshell. So we have 4 different modules inside the toolkit: the consultation via LCA, the calculation via circularity, the land use chains and forestry, and one methodology to study the biodiversity and ecosystems integrity. You are welcome to enter inside the toolkit to play a little bit on your own. We are currently launched the first edition of the toolkit, and we plan to do major updates in the following years. The toolkit has been already validated by the hubs, the regional hubs, and we are trying, with your interaction, of course, to make it better, to make it more useful. So I invite you to use the tool and play with it a bit. So a bit more on the practical sense. You are a user or you are a hub member of BioINSouth. What can you explore through the BioINSouth toolkit? With the module consultation via LCA, you can explore your environmental footprint of bioprocesses. This means that, let's say, for example, that I am an SME in a remote region of southern country, and I want and I have a certain value chain, so I want to see if I can exploit the biorefinery concepts in order to reduce the environmental footprint of my bioprocess. Do I want to start on manage a biorefinery? I can go inside the consultation via LCA, choose between predefined fields of biomasses that are very close to the South European reality, and see and get an idea what is going on with the footprint of my process. And then with the circularity calculation, I can understand how resources can be used. The resources, again, if I am SME, I have some resources, and I want a way to manage my waste in order to increase my circularity. I can use the circularity calculation, which is actually an exploration based on the parameters I will provide. For the land use chains and forestry, this answers actually the question, what if a value chain scale up? I am, again, for example, an SME role in this situation is very pronounced, as Estefania said. I am an SME. I have a value chain. What if I scale up from one day after another? Will there be any land, climate, and food system effects? Will I be going to somewhere worst in terms of bioeconomy, even if it's best in terms of profit? There you can explore all the possibilities and be informed of your next steps. And last, for the biodiversity and ecosystems integrity, I can understand ecosystem-related considerations for regional decision-making. So the question to answer is, can my bio-based idea affect nature in a way? Or even an idea that it's not bio-based, how it affects nature? And next we have, as I told you, the BioINSouth stakeholder community tool, which is quite different because the main aim is to connect, because connection matters. And in regions such as the Mediterranean and Southern Europe, where fragmentation is extreme, connection is a keyword in us. Again, you can access the community through our website. You are invited to log in and create an account. It's quite easy. I will not get you through this, but you provide some very simple information in the beginning. You create an account, and then you can structure a detailed account inside the community where you can be explicit on your interests, on your goals, on your insights. So with the BioINSouth stakeholder community tool, first we identify actors. By creating an account, you can be from whatever organization, or you can be associated with whatever organization in whatever region all over the world. So we have public authorities, SMEs, farmers, researchers, clusters, and the civil society, and plain citizens. The role is to make you visible to each other to begin with, and facilitate interaction. Who is active and where? Around what bioeconomy interest? Is there a regional context behind your activities? Then when the connections are made, we have a forum feature that will enable connection, knowledge exchange, collaboration, sharing of events, sharing of opportunities. In general, people need to find each other. And I understand that social media is a very effective tool that we use a lot in BioINSouth, but we need some dedicated bioeconomy tools to facilitate specialized interactions. So as you can see here, you can create a small account, and inside the stakeholder community tool, you enter in the main menu, which is the dashboard. You get an overview of all the features of the platform. You have a list of the community members that you can scroll and search among them according to the organization they are associated with, or even with name. You have the knowledge sharing and where you can propose to us to upload material that is useful to share with the rest of the bioeconomy community, either it is of regional context or international context. The linking here is bioeconomy activities. We have also a calendar of events where you can showcase your events that are related to bioeconomy, and we also have a discussion forum. So for the knowledge sharing, we have the community contributions, we have the share of good practices and some success stories that maybe you want to share. We have some learning and tools, and here comes the MOOC. Currently, we are actively seeking with Estefania an interaction between the BioINSouth stakeholder community and the MOOCs, because one of the main challenges is not to double do things over the internet and reduce this fragmentation. We have documents concerning policy and strategy. Those fields are going to be implemented a little bit later in the project because, as you understand, it's one of the latest stage. We also upload there our public deliverers, research and innovation activities, publication that may result from the project, or even you can propose content to us. For example, one of the main tools that we have inside is a very simple explainer series for the new bioeconomy strategy that was launched in late 2025 with the differences from the last bioeconomy strategy of the European Union and what are the main key aspects of the new one. We also need your help, as you understand, to update our bioeconomy events calendar. Again, we invite you to showcase your event in our calendars, the description, the landing page, and also you have the ability to have a quick overview on the bioeconomy related events. And last but not least, the discussion forum. The discussion forum inside the stakeholder community tool is a dedicated space where all of the members can open topics, ask questions, exchange opinions, exchange information, even pose a very simple question. Forum topics are quite important because we need to support the community and to transform it from, let's say, a stakeholder database to an active community. Currently, we have launched the stakeholder community not more than 6 months ago. We did a major relaunch 2 months ago by adding the forum feature, and now we have more than 80 people registered inside, and we are very interested in gaining traction over this and help us shape the next step. So pretty much this is what I had to say. I just want to remind you a little bit the key takeaways, that bioeconomy may be mainly a technical advancement, but it is also a regional transition that can be harsh for some regions. It is shaped by local resources, ecosystem, industries, and local people. So the Southern European and Mediterranean regions have very strong potential, and we know that. We form the, let's say, agricultural basis of Europe to some extent, but also we have a large amount of fragility, fragmented capacity, and uneven access to practical tools. The BioINSouth toolkit supports the structured exploration of bioeconomy value chains by taking into advantage all existing knowledge and established methodologies. And on the other hand, the stakeholder community tool supports your visibility, your exchange, and collaboration, not only across the hubs, not only across the region, but across stakeholder groups from all over the world, that their main interest is bioeconomy and circular sustainable bioeconomy. So in BioINSouth, we aim to make the regional bioeconomy decisions more connected and more evidence-based, and with a larger outreach to the general and even to the research and the specialized public. And this is something that we are trying to do for the last 2 years. I hope this will continue as an initiative in the future. And last but not least, I wanted to invite you in the second BioINSouth Forum in Seville, Andalusia. Our partner, the Technological Corporation of Andalusia, is hosting the second BioINSouth Forum, where policymakers, researchers, and industries from all over Europe are going to connect each other through roundtables and keynote speech, also from the European Commission. It is an official partner event of the EU Green Week, and it is also hosted under the Bioeconomy Circular, which is a very important regional initiative in Andalusia. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you, Nadia. That was also very interesting. I'm checking the chat. For now, there are no questions, so I'll kickstart the discussion. And then, of course, all the participants are welcome to put their questions in the chat. Yeah, I was wondering because, you mentioned the regional hubs, and I was thinking about the importance of regional languages to the regional strategies. And how do you do this in the project?
You know what, I was thinking I will be a bit loose in discussing this. I was watching with an enormous interest the presentation of Estefania, and it was really, really interested. And then I turned into our project and I thought, okay, we have all this money. What are we doing? We are doing, yes, the fact is that, imagine that we have 8 regional hubs, 7 national languages, material that has to be transferred in many different audiences, in many different languages, and this is the ultimate challenge for BioINSouth. The digital tools, they are important, but the core of the project for the moment is how to connect not only the hubs together, but create the hubs from scratch in those regions, so you understand that you need a dedicated languages, very competent partners to kickstart the hubs in the region. We are very lucky for this. Every partner that is in charge of the hub is very dedicated to this. And we have to tackle all these, not inconsistencies, all this diversity every day. How to connect the hubs together, how to connect all.
Yeah, no, okay, very interesting. Maybe, I was thinking because now the AI tools can help a lot with that as well. Yes. Because, for instance, there is now a big platform called the EU Farm Book, and they are using AI to automatically translate all the data that they're inputting in the platform to the regional languages. So maybe there is a way.
There is a problem with the jargon in some cases, and I will speak on behalf of Greece, for example. Because I have an opinion over this. In Greece, the bioeconomy jargon is underdeveloped, to be honest. The very simple term that it's very everyday in bioeconomy, bio-based, you cannot get like a simple word in Greece that portrays this sense. We have some words, some people need to force them into discussion. Many of the people do not understand, and we use English. So you see these difficulties are very, very real. And those are things that we are constantly trying to address through the hubs and coordinate through Spring, of course, who is the coordinator of the project, how to tackle all these issues collectively. And this is one very simple thing, how to translate bio-based. You understand this? This creates a lot of fragmentation and diversity.
Okay, no, that's very interesting. Yeah, that's already something that the hubs indeed can tackle. Okay, we have a question in the chat, so I'll go for that. Liliana is asking, what do you consider the main barrier for implementing circular bioeconomy strategies across Southern European regions?
The landscape. I'm not an expert, to be honest, because shortly, I forgot to introduce properly myself. I am the Communication, Dissemination, Exploitation leader in BioINSouth. I'm not a direct expert, but I have gained through the years some expertise on this with the interaction with the partners. But as I see it, and as a citizen, of course, I think that the landscape, the particularities of the landscape create, especially in the Mediterranean regions, where the landscape is very diverse, creates a problem on how to centralize biomass in general. Feedstock or waste or things that should be treated in a circular way. This is a very, very practical barrier. And I think that with the new bioeconomy strategy and the new initiatives for creating hubs for biomass collection, this is starting to be addressed in the European Union more.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, I was also thinking, because you're doing bioeconomy hubs, but of course, bioeconomy is such a large definition. So we saw in the BioRadar that they focus on 3 specific sectors, but you guys are very broad, and I guess this is a much challenging approach. So how do you tackle this in the hubs?
There was a deliberate decision not to, because it was the project is a coordination and support action, so we need to establish structure. This is our main goal. So we decided not to focus in value chains because of the diversity of the regions. The need we address is to create active hubs in these regions, regardless of the value chains of interest. On the other hand, now that the hubs are established, we are forced in hub level to address to the stakeholders that are relevant in the value chain. So I didn't present this because it wasn't actually part of this, but just so you know, we are currently working in the establishment of thematic working groups, which are different in each hub, according and tailored to their stakeholder analysis, to their regional needs, to their particularities. So we started from something really simple. Okay, we need to create some critical mass. And then we started adding some regional complexities inside, like the value chains, the different stakeholders, the different types of organizations, and stuff like this.
Yeah. No, makes sense. Sounds like a good approach. And I was wondering, because you have you're in the southern Europe, but every country is very different to each other. So during the implementation of the hubs, did you see very different challenges or very regional ways to structure things, or are the hubs quite similar across the different regions?
No, they're not similar at all. And I can again because I'm not actually the one who, but I have an overview in any case of the project through the communication and dissemination. But we have, I don't know how to call this in English. We have regions that are very different in terms of bioeconomy intensity. We have regions like Andalusia, for example, that has a dedicated bioeconomy strategy for the region. And we have Cyprus, for example, that doesn't even have a bioeconomy strategy, or Greece, to be honest, for the whole country. So you understand that this is directly portrayed in how the hubs were forced to coordinate, the hub members actually, were forced to coordinate with each other. We have more mature systems like Andalusia. We have mature systems like Slovenia and Central region from Portugal. We have systems and hubs that are in the bottom scale of maturity like Cyprus and Greece. We have Italy, which is a very interesting use case that has very strong visibility, but it needs to be a little bit more coordinated with the authorities. It's very diverse. And for the moment, our work is organize, tailor, use also the experience from BioINSouth Hub, which is very important. They have created this macro-regional initiative for South Central Europe, which was like a use case for us. We were their replication, let's say, strategy. So we can observe, collect data, harmonize as much as possible, and draw conclusions. This is our task.
Okay. No, very nice. And a very silly last question. So the stakeholder community, which is very nice, and I already registered. I was wondering is when we post something there, does it come? Is there an alert coming to our email? Because I'm part of a different forum, which is specifically for the blue bioeconomy. And in all honesty, I forget to check it. But luckily, when people post in specific groups or specific areas of the forum, then I get an alert, and that's how I keep in touch. Did you foresee also similar tool, or is it still in development?
It's under development, let's say, because we will do one last update in the following months. I'm not sure.
Okay, so
I'm not sure if there is the possibility for the moment.
Yeah, that's
So
my
this is
suggestion.
something,
If possible, it would be nice. And if not, maybe
Thank
it's
you
nice
very
to
much.
put a disclaimer in the forum that you should check it for once in a while.
Thank you very much for the suggestion. This is exactly the feedback we are looking for.
Yeah,
Thank
but I will definitely post there also with our event. So I think forums are really nice. For the Blue Bioeconomy Forum, it really works. It's really creating a little community, and it's very nice to see. So I wish that your forum also arrives to that point.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that note, let's close this part and move to the third speaker. So thank you very much, Nadia. And I invite now, actually the third speech is gonna be with two speakers. We have Miha and Antonia. So I invite them to open their cameras and share their screen for the Symbio project presentation.
Hello, can you see the screen?
Yes, I do.
All right, so hello from our side as well. Very happy to be here at the Thursday Talks. We're going to present you some of the concrete results of the Symbio project, and I'll show you a bit the platform that we're using. I am Miha Škrokov. I come from the company Antea. We are based in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and I'm an expert in circular economy. I'm a project manager at the company. We're also implementing the value chain generator tool. That is, we're a private company, and this is our tool that we're also commercializing, and the methodology, or the, let's say, results of the tool we're also using or have used in this Symbio project. So yeah, a bit of an overview will be given at the beginning before we dive into the demo I'll show you, and then we'll go a bit into how we use the tool, what data we used, and then Antonia will also present, the other methodologies that complete our approach in this project. Yeah, so maybe before I step in the tool, the main goal or the end goal of the Symbio project is to have very detailed descriptions, analysis of 10 circular bioeconomy value chains in Europe. So we are doing, we were doing prioritization in each of the regions in Symbio project. We have 12 regions. Scattered around Europe, from Belgium to Spain to North Italy to Slovenia to Croatia, Austria. And for each regions, we have prioritized value chains, based on the biomass that is existing in that region. And we've used different tools to, get us to the top 10, best, let's say, business models, most appropriate business models in the circular bioeconomy space. And we've used the LCA analysis as well, the LCC, and other, let's say, approaches that Antonia is gonna also present. So now I want to present you a bit of this value chain generator tool. It was one of the intro tools that we used to find opportunities in each regions. It is an intelligence tool. So what we do is we gather different, let's say, data on one platform. We kind of visualize it, we summarize it, and we show, what are the best, let's say, possibilities, business models, circular value chains in each region that can be then further implemented, researched, prioritized, funded, etc. So I want to show you the demo quickly. Okay, so this is our platform. I will hide this. This is our platform. Can you see it? It says I'm sharing the window. All right, so we gathered all different, let's say, materials, feedstocks, technologies in the bioeconomy space.
Sorry,
so for
Miha?
Wait, no,
Yes.
yeah, now I was
I
wondering
don't
if I'm seeing the platform. No, right?
You're not
Yeah,
seeing
so
it.
sorry
Okay.
for that.
I need to share again then. How about now?
Yes.
All right. So this is the platform you see. This is the first page. And yeah, let's say you're a company interested in purchasing ethanol or maybe producing ethanol, etc. So you can then click on this material to give you additional data. So what different data we gather? You can see a bit of a brief description. You can see the size of the market of ethanol in Europe. You can see what price per ton it's currently selling for. This is the 2024 price, for instance. And you can see in how many different pathways, value chains it is included on our platform. So we show you like a graph of, different, let's say, feedstocks in which, let's say, TRL they are, pilot lab research. You can see for ethanol, many of them are already on commercial TRL 9 levels, like sugar beet juice through fermentation to ethanol that is then being used in paints and ink solvent. And this is, for instance, for this ethanol, considered by our scoring system, one of the best, let's say, or most implementable value chains. You can check the players in Europe, so the feedstock suppliers of this feedstock. You can see who produces it in Europe. You can check the players. You can see who is buying ethanol currently in Europe. So we give you this overview of market players. We give you an overview of the IP landscape. So who is patenting different, technologies that convert ethanol into new, let's say, products? Where are these patents, et cetera, et cetera. And we also give you the research landscape. So what is the research telling us? Which, let's say, feedstocks are being mostly researched for producing, let's say, this product, or which, so we show you kind of what are the what is the latest research saying, what are the latest publications. So we use all of this data to feed it into our Symbio project, that I will continue with the presentation to show you a case of. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
All right, we're back. So how did we use this data in the project? I'll show you in a case of Andalusia. So we also have CTA as a partner, like BioINSouth, and we've prepared a workshop for them and used our data to prioritize different value chains. So I'm going to present you one of the value chains that was presented at the workshop. It was one of, I think, 5 or 6 prioritized for that region. And this prioritization was based on the biomass availability in the region, the maturity of the tech in the region, how many players could participate, how many stakeholders could participate in a certain value chain in the region, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the prioritized value chains was, of course, olive residues combined with wood residues to food for all. So currently, Symbio is quite heavily focused on chemical value chains, and food for all being one of those, let's say, platform chemicals that was prioritized. So what is it? It's an organic chemical. It's derived from hemicellulose, and it's present in agricultural and forestry residues. And it has quite diverse applications, from production of resins to production of adhesives, solvents, lubricants, to pharmaceuticals. So it's quite broad, the application, which is good. It's that's why it's also a platform chemical. It acts as this intermediate building block for various specialty chemicals. So this was kind of like a visualization of the value chain. So on the left, you can see the supply. So different olive tree prunings and wood residues from olive oil production, wood industry. There's more than 100 players that we've identified in Andalusia in this for the supply. So there's a lot of it. And then you have acid hydrolysis that we've identified as a technology. The feedstock gets dehydrated as well, and furfural is produced. What we've seen was a bit of a gap in this value chain on the technology provider side, as there were none identified. But we don't see that being that much of a problem, because technology can be imported from other countries. What's more important is that supply is local and that the market is local. So, as I mentioned, there's different, market applications. We've found 10 plus partners in that region, so that we could create a very local circular value chain, which is of course important in bioeconomy from the environmental perspectives, but also from economics perspectives, because transport is let's say a big bottleneck in bioeconomy in many value chains. So we've shown these biomass producers on the map, who can participate in the value chains, what are the names of companies that can offtake furfural, and we've then tried to invite these companies on the workshop. So some of them came, and we've had quite let's say productive discussions on the implementation of these value chains, what can actually be done and what not, what were some let's say legislative constraints using this let's say this feedstocks. There were some, for instance, in Andalusia, and we've showed also how this technology gap that was identified can be filled through other EU companies. So there's many, for instance, that produce or have hydrolysis processes that can be eligible for a tax transfer, which is usually a one-time thing when you're building a biorefinery. So it's not that much of a problem. So we've also had we did the biomass mappings through Symbio work package 1. There's a lot of olive tree prunings in Andalusia, and it's definitely an opportunity. But of course, with that high number of biomass comes also a high number of potential competition for this feedstock. So what was also done as an exercise through the VCG tool, we provided potential competition in the region. And what we've seen in this region is that it was relatively strong. The bioenergy industry is quite strong in Andalusia, which is also using this feedstock. So it was noted that there is potential lock-ins for the feedstock already. However, the sheer volume definitely still presents an opportunity for, let's say, a furfural value chain. So yeah, that's from my side. And Antonia will share the presentation from her side as well.
Yes, thank you. One moment. Okay. So yeah, thank you also from my side for the invitation. I'm Antonia Zerobin. I'm from Alchemia Nova. We are an innovation and research institute based in Vienna. And we are leading the work package 3 in Symbio. And I want to give you also a short overview again from the project itself, but also from our work package and the whole process from selection to visualization to validation of different bio-based value chains. So only very short, for the Symbio project consists of 4 main work packages. The first one was all about identifying or also quantifying biomasses, the regional biomass availabilities, and also suitable technologies, and also they narrowed down the most interesting bio-based products that can be formed out of those residues, as Miha already mentioned, mainly focused on the green chemistry. In work package 2, the VCG AI tool just now presented from Miha was used to identify relevant value chains in the regions of Symbio, and by this process, the tool could identify 47 value chains that were prioritized by the tool. And already Miha said they were selected based on the local feedstock supply, the conversion technologies, the existing infrastructure, and also a clear local market demand. In work package 3, we needed to narrow down the 47 value chains down to around 10 highly promising value chains. And the next part was then to visualize the selected ones with material flow analysis, and followed then also by multi-stakeholder focus groups. And one other major part of work package 3 is to build policy recommendations. And in work package 4, these selected value chains are further analyzed with LCC, LCA, etc. So focusing on our process, what we did from Alchemia Nova is kind of clustered into 3 different steps. So the first one was the multi-criteria decision analysis. We applied that to decide logically and transparently on what were the most promising value chains out of these 47. And for this, we integrated 9 different criteria from environmental, economic, and social impacts. And this allowed us to have a transparent comparison of all the different options and to rank all these value chains. And then on the selected value chains, we applied also material flow analysis, and this helps us to quantify material inputs and outputs, to visualize resource flows, etc. We'll go into detail after this slide also. And then as a last step is after having all these informations collected coming from literature and experts, we also wanted to have this multi-stakeholder focus groups to again validate the value chains, and also to identify real barriers and enablers coming from the region, coming from the value chain. Yeah, so to go to the first part, the multi-criteria decision analysis, but this, as already said, we narrowed down the 47 biolinks, sorry, that's a mistake, that was identified with the tool to the 14 highest performing biolinks. We then also organized an expert validation workshop to assess or to find out whether these 14 highest performing biolinks are really good, and whether they can be replicated across Europe. But was also a very important question for us to be answered. So after the expert validation workshop, we selected 11 regional biolinks across the Symbio regions. And by this, we received 6 replicable high potential bio-based value chains, such as forestry residues, can be used to produce PHA, which is a bio-based polymer, or other agricultural residues to produce, for example, succinic acid, a very promising platform chemical as well. And also from corn steep liquor, which is a side product from starch production, to produce another chemical platform like propanediol, which are both currently produced based on fossil resources, and a very already nicely implemented value chain across Belgium, for example, is the value chain whey to protein. again, we applied then a material flow analysis to quantify not only the feedstock potential, which was done already in work package 1, but also to visualize circularity and to make visible how much product can be produced out of the available biomasses, and also what kind of side streams come out of this biorefinery process and can be valorized as well, which is really important for a successful business model in coming from these value chains. And another very important part or feature of the material flow analysis, it can be, of course, also used for sustainability reporting for companies. Yeah, sorry. Here is an example from the corn steep liquor to propanediol value chain in Belgium. So here we can see that around 350 kilotons of corn for starch production is produced. And out of these residues, around, I can see it, almost 30 kilotons of propanediol can be produced per year. So yeah, these are quite some amounts. And also what is really essential is that not only propanediol is produced in this biorefinery process, but also lactate and butanediol, also other very valuable chemicals. The third part, as I mentioned, are multi-stakeholder focus groups. The last month, we were pretty busy in organizing those focus groups and engaging the stakeholders from the regions. So our methodology for these focus groups was, again, so as a first part in the focus groups, we presented our results from our analysis. So we kind of gave an overview of the regional value chain that we have analyzed. But then in the co-creation sessions, we wanted to discuss together with the local stakeholders coming from across the value chain, the different barriers and enablers that hinder the successful implementation of these value chains. And what was really nice, then we started with this kind of broad discussion across really across the value chain. So we started with, okay, what kind of barriers and enablers do we have on the feedstock side? What kind of bottlenecks do we have experience, or do they experience on the biorefinery side? And then as a third part of the value chain, we looked at the product and market side. And then in the end, we came to the second part or point of the co-creation session was then really to select, coming from all these different aspects we have discussed, to select key leverage points. So what is really needed now? What is most important for the implementation, the successful implementation of such value chains? And here is a small picture from our Canva. The third step was then the validation of regional ecosystem maps that were done in work package 1. So one of our project partners really identified several actors coming from the region that should support the bioeconomy. And we also used or leverage the time of the focus groups to validate those ecosystems. Here we have the result of the Belgium focus group. So we draw on the map here, as you can see, first actors and flows, and then the bottlenecks and enablers. And for this, I asked the stakeholders or the participants to put sticky notes, like green are enabling conditions and red are hindering or are still bottlenecks and barriers. And by this, we got a really nice overview of this, kind of problems we still face for the bioeconomy on different parts of the value chain. And again, as I said, then also to wrap it up, with the key leverage points were also really nice during the workshops to kind of channel everything to the most important key leverage points. Sorry. And then also for the valid ecosystem map, it was really great again to see with the local stakeholders, okay, are there some actors missing, or what is enabling, what is maybe also even hindering the implementation, etc. And yeah, the ecosystem map was also really nicely designed. So we have here the user side, the support side, the promotion side, the delivery actors, policy, funding, and research. So they were also clustered in the different parts of actors. Now I want to present you all a bit of the results or what we have learned already from the focus groups. So we had already 4 focus groups, one in Croatia where we explored forestry residues to PHA, in Belgium corn steep liquor to propanediol, in Slovenia together with Miha we explored wet straw or lignocellulosic biomass to PHA, and last week or two weeks before in Austria and Carinthia, we explored barley straw to succinic acid. And what we saw, so we saw some barriers that really are across all the regions and value chains. So for example, what also Miha mentioned in Andalusia, these value chains really face competition. For example, forestry residues or lignocellulosic residues are used mainly for bioenergy currently, or due to seasonal availability, they face uncertain feedstock volumes or supply. Also impacted by, of course, climate change. And a very important issue in the bioeconomy, of course, is the price competitiveness to fossil-based resources. And also a major issue, I think, across all the regions currently is that still the logistics infrastructure has some gaps, and it's still very pricey. Regarding the biorefinery, we see that currently we have rarely industrial scale pilot biorefinery plants, and also it still has some investment risks. There is a funding gap, especially on the later TRL stages. And of course, so far the biorefinery process has higher processing costs as compared to the fossil-based route, and is sometimes also technically still very complex. On the product and market size, it's basically also the same, like on the feedstock side, that there can be an uncertain feedstock supply. So on the market side, of course, means that there is no guaranteed market volume. There is a price competition from the fossil industry, and also what kind of hinders the market competitiveness are also insufficient or inconsistent policy frameworks, and they are kind of a bit too slow. And what also many of the stakeholders said, it's really important to get big companies on board, and currently some companies, or most of them from the really big players, show little interest still, unfortunately. So key leverage points that we found out is we need funding, especially for scale up, for to implement industrial scale biorefinery, which brings me to the 4th point. We need proof of concept. So we need feasibility studies that are trust anchors for the investors to really pull these financing structures. Another thing is, of course, policy pull. We need clear regulations. What we see currently, for example, what is, of course, hindering the process or the fast implementation of bioeconomy is, for example, omnibus is uncertain and inconsistent policy frameworks are slowing everything down, of course. And another major thing is, of course, are the incentives that are favoring currently the fossil industry and not the bio-based industry yet. And what also is really supportive is our partnerships, our collaborations, clusters in the regions. They can be really strong. And also pushing, for example, the market interest. And this brings me to the fifth point is we need still push this mind change for not only the industry, but the whole society still. And and last but not least, we need really clear business models. For example, such biorefinery concepts have to valorize every side stream to have zero waste biorefineries so that they can be economically competitive to the fossil-based industry. As I mentioned shortly, we have also another major part in the Symbio project. So we want to build policy recommendations for the bioeconomy. And for this, we developed a policy survey. And I invite you also to take the survey and to support us in this policy recommendations. And with this, I thank you very much for your attention and happy to answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Miha and Antonia. Very nice as well. For all participants, we'll be sharing the presentation, so then you can see the QR code and answer the policy questionnaire. So again, I'll check in the chat, but I think we don't have questions for the moment, so I'll kickstart and then questions can come from the audience. I had a first question because both of the previous projects were more focused on SMEs. And then I was wondering if you guys, when you did this mapping, did you also focus on SMEs, or were you focusing on bigger companies, or was it a mix? You didn't make any distinction about that?
No distinction is made on that. So if a company has a certain technology, if a company has feedstock, if a company can offtake a certain new product, then it's eligible, no matter the size.
Okay, no, that's clear. And while you were doing also the survey, did you see any clear link that already existed that was like a complete value chain, but the actors were just not connected yet? Or no, there was always a little gap, and that's why the value chain was still not implemented?
Even in value chains where there is clear that actors are all existing in a local region, that has no correlation between a value chain actually being implemented in that region, as there are many other factors and, let's say, barriers as well that Antonia mentioned. So we had value chains where all actors were present, and that was still an opportunity and not something that's present in that region.
Okay, very interesting. But yeah, hopefully these results of the project will help them to be implemented. And then I was wondering now, Antonia, with all this analysis that you did, especially the challenges, and indeed you mentioned that there is quite some more technological complexity for several of the bio-based value chains when you compare with the fossil-based ones. And do you see all of these bio-based value chains becoming competitive once the technology matures? I know this is a very almost philosophical question, but anyways, would you think that when the technology matures, they can become competitive? Or shall we just agree that they are the future and we need to transition and really focus on just putting some, how do I call, some burden, some economical burden on the fossil fuel ones to give the bio-based ones a chance?
So I think it's both. So without incentives, I think this transformation will take so much time that we don't have. But yes, I think they will be or can be competitive, but as I said, not without incentives also. So I think it's really important that we have regulations that foster really the implementation of bio-based feeds or products actually, but still have it more on a supporting side, because what we also saw that companies often say everything is too regulated, so and too complex. So I think it's really important to have this incentive from coming from the policy side now. And either way, I think it's getting more and more important to have ecologically products, because also the society pulls this, because it's getting much more important for each and every one. And I think at some point companies will also have to jump on that train.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting point. Wait, I'll come back to that in a bit. I just want to ask two more questions specifically to your project, and then I'm actually going to open for everybody. Just these evaluations that you did, the value chain mapping, is it available for everyone for the project, or it's still not? How do you see the dissemination of this? Can I see all of this, or how does this work?
Yes, so I think the ecosystem maps should be already online as it's one of the first deliverables. I can share also the homepage. Sorry that I didn't put it on the presentations. So yes, of course, everything in the end will be shared by deliverables. Also, the material flow analysis and the policy recommendations, etc. We don't have, or we are not developing a specific tool for our dissemination, unfortunately, but everything will be published in our deliverables or reports. And
okay. Yeah, and it would be nice to put in the bioeconomy forum of BioINSouth, maybe already making the connection that you can widely disseminate it. Yeah, and maybe just one more question. So, of course, the project was more about the mapping, I understand this, but then where does it stop? It will stop with the mapping and the policy implementations, or do you have any accelerator programs or anything to actually implement a value chain?
Unfortunately, not yet. We really would like to have a project where we get more to this point, but it's really this project focuses on the theoretical building of these business models and not the practical part. But to come one of your first questions, I'd like to ask Miha, I mean, what do you experience by working with all these different companies in regards to the competitiveness of bio-based products versus fossil-based products? Because I think it's interesting, Miha, if you'd share a bit your experience in working with the industry.
Sure, yeah. So we work with quite some companies on these topics, and what we see is that many outside events are accelerating the interest in these new bio-based feedstocks. So, at the start of the Ukraine-Russian conflict, now the Strait of Hormuz closing, all of these events triggered, let's say, quite a big movements in companies' interest to move away from fossil-based feedstocks. And many companies, despite this, let's say, new less stringent omnibus European legislation and the breakdown of the Green Deal that's happening, many companies still have retained their bio-based feedstock goals. For instance, we work with two large tire companies. One of them is Michelin, and they retained their, let's say, high up to 30% fossil-based feedstock goal to replace bio-based feedstock goal to replace fossil-based because of these disruptions in the supply chains that they're seeing. And you can find, also cheap alternatives if we're talking about this kind of competition between fossil-based and bio-based, where these bio-based can come from byproducts, from waste, right? And these feedstocks right now have quite, let's say, low prices. And there are mature technologies that can valorize them into good enough input for, let's say, tire production. So I think that bioeconomy right now is in the upwards trajectory and in a very good place to be highly competitive with the established products. So we believe in this, and we know that the good business models exist, and that and we promote those. So, and that's what we're also doing in Symbio. So, yeah.
Okay, so the time is now. Let's hope that all the new bioeconomy developments in the European Union really boost the bioeconomy here. And indeed, I hope also people stop having short memories, that hopefully these wars will resolve themselves and everything will become quiet again, but that they don't forget that these things can happen again and continue investing in the bioeconomy, because there's always these peaks of investment when there's a crisis and then it crashes. But yeah, let's hope memory doesn't get lost now. Okay, to close the session, I'd like to invite all the speakers again. So I already see Nadia here. Estefania, if you can also open your camera. I have two questions for all of you. One is about the SME, so that's why I wanted to go back on that, because both BioRadar and BioINSouth were a little bit more focused on the SMEs, and now we see that Symbio has a more agnostic approach. And I wanted to hear from your experience with these different profiles of companies. Yeah, do you think the bioeconomy is more fomented with new companies, or the conversion of current large companies? So now we heard about the tire sector already being converted. So yeah, how do you see? You really see that the SMEs are the future, or there is still also possibility for the conversion of the current ones, or is both need to bring their own game to the playing field?
Well, from my side, I can say that definitely SMEs are somehow an important engine that needs to take place in order to start with how the solution or the product that you are offering is establishing in the market. Definitely after that, the upscaling comes into place as well. So still, as I mentioned in my presentation, SMEs represent quite some important contribution for the economy as employment powerhouse and so on. So definitely SMEs play a very strong role in the bio-based systems, and I think they are somehow the first step into spreading a little bit more these bio-based products, hopefully sustainable bio-based products.
Okay, very nice. Anybody else?
From my point of view, and I agree again with Stefania, the SMEs represent the backbone in some cases of bioeconomy, because it's the crossroad between mass production and innovation. So there are some mottos that are very applicable in SMEs, catch them young. So with the SMEs, we have the opportunity to modify the value chains into more sustainable practices in a very early stage, and having higher hopes in upscaling with and in line with the bioeconomy and sustainability principles. The large companies represent a very important manufacturing sector as well, and the incentives for large companies are much more demanding. In order to shift their productions, they have a completely different overview on how things are done and how the value chains are sustained. They are more factors to take into account of, starting from mobility and transport, for example. So the transition for them is more difficult than SMEs. So catch them young. This applies to SMEs, and it's a very good starting point for many of the activities in bioeconomy.
Yeah, fair. Miha and Antonia, do you have anything to add from the Symbio perspective?
Just that large companies as well are also quite interesting from the bioeconomy standpoint, because they have a lot of biomass in one place, and from the economical standpoint, it just makes it easier to implement a certain circular bioeconomy value chain by transporting the feedstock from one large player or from a cluster, let's say, of 4 to 5, than from a very spread out, let's say, 50 SMEs, that have, let's say, olive residues scattered all around. So they are, large players, large factories are also quite interesting from this standpoint.
Yeah, indeed. Nadia, you want to complement? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to add something, and I want to thank Miha and Antonia for their presentation as well. I was watching with large interest the presentation of Miha concerning the olive processing waste. As you know, Spain is the larger producer of olive oil, and Greece, I think, for the moment, we are the third under Italy. So here is a very good bioeconomy situation that you can compare. The amount of waste that we have in Greece, for example, it's not directly comparable to the one of Spain, but it is considered one of the major, the more important feedstocks in Greece, the waste from the olive oil and table olive industry. You see the differences between the two countries. The production in Greece is extremely fragmented and with a very difficult landscape. On the other hand, in Spain, the production of olive oil is, I don't want to say easier, but it's structured completely differently. They have vast regions that the cultivation and the collection and everything is done mechanically. In this sense, they have large companies that result in processing all this olive. So you have a large scale, a large company guided, important bioeconomy activity in Spain. And on the other hand, in Greece, you have several SME producers with a very difficult landscape to tackle, with fragmented collection spaces. So you see that this is a very clear case of what we're discussing now, that large companies play their role because they have all this potential that Miha says very correctly, but SMEs as well have a very important role in regions where this value chain is not dependent on the final product. It's completely different. Only the final product is the same. So you see that both SMEs, both large companies, they play their role accordingly. So.
Yep, no, makes sense. I was expecting more or less this answer, but I wanted to see the different aspects. Okay, then to finalize, I just want to give each project a little moment to just final message on, which challenges your digital tools or your outputs are helping to solve, and how we should use them.
Well, for BioRadar, I think we have a very interesting transition, the bio-based transition framework. I think this provides a good basis on how we need to start shifting and move away from the indicators that are used to measure sustainability for fossil-based products. And I think for the companies especially, we have these very interesting tools. And I think they can be easily implemented and embedded into their systems, and they can have also, for example, the implementation scorecard with these visuals. We are trying to connect with the bio-based industry consortium, and we want to propose it as part of a communication tool, for example, that companies can use to present also their sustainability performance immediately on their websites and communication materials, and that can can be used as a harmonized score, for example. But that is quite ambitious from my side at the moment. Let's see if that happens. But in any ways, I think this could be relevant information for the companies to use and to sell themselves also in terms of obtaining connecting with investors and so on. So yeah, that would be the final message from BioRadar. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Maybe Nadia from BioINSouth.
The main challenge for the moment is for BioINSouth is to create toolkits in general that are not considered elite, but grounded. Because there is a tendency to consider bioeconomy and the associated terminology a little bit of elite language, a language that not everybody can speak. I'm not talking about addressing directly to the citizens because this is a completely different situation, but one of the challenges is to keep scientifically grounded digital tools with an approachability by the various stakeholders that is good. And also I want to say something because I saw a question in the chat about other EU projects. And the other challenge we are facing is not to add in the fragmentation. We need to reduce the fragmentation, not to add the fragmentation. So as you understand now, from all these very valuable results from all the projects, we really need to be engaged in collaborations that will eventually lead not to like a super database or an ultra database or an ultra tool or something, but increase interaction, reduce fragmentation. This is a tough challenge because everybody has their ways. But I think that through events like this and collaboration, this will be tackled eventually.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I do hope that now the projects interact and find strength using each other's tools. So yeah, let's finish from Symbio. Who wants to give a final message?
Yeah, I can. So from the Symbio side, I think it's all about educating and connecting stakeholders from the value chains to really make the potential of such bio-based business model visible. And for us, a real challenge is actually the engagement of the stakeholders, so that we face that for the organization of all the focus groups, etc. And yeah, also to build these policy recommendations, because for example, with regards to the feedstock competition, we need, for example, policies that manage these cascading use of biomasses to make these biomasses available. And that's, I think, what we're focusing on Symbio, to make the barriers and enablers visible across different sectors and stakeholders.
Yeah, okay. Let's hope that also this session and this recording, because we will further disseminate it, will help you reaching your stakeholders. But yeah, I hear that that's often a challenge. Okay, we are right on time. So thank you very much for all the speakers and for the participants. For me, it was a very lovely session. I really enjoyed all the discussions and exchanges. I'll definitely use the tools and the forums. So thank you very much. Wish you all the success with your projects and hope to see you in next sessions. So have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. Thank you, everyone.
My pleasure.
Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.